Star Trek: Strange New Worlds exposes Dr. M'Benga's dark secrets in Season 3, Episode 7. Star Trek: Strange New Worlds has always excelled at giving its characters rich emotional depth, but Season 3, Episode 7 pushes that commitment further than ever by turning its focus squarely on one of the Enterprise's most complicated figures, Dr. Joseph M'Benga. The episode peels back the last protective layers around the ship's chief medical officer, revealing a series of long-buried secrets that challenge not only the crew's trust in him but also his own sense of identity. What emerges is a riveting, morally tangled character study that dares to ask whether a good man can survive the shadows he's tried so desperately to outrun. This episode is a turning point, not just for M'Benga, but for the series' ongoing exploration of Starfleet ethics, wartime trauma, and the often messy humanity behind the Federation's pristine ideals. It's the kind of storytelling Star Trek thrives on, emotionally raw, layered, and willing to stain its heroes without destroying them. A ghost from the Klingon War returns. From the moment the episode begins, it's clear something is wrong. Dr. M'Benga wakes from a recurring nightmare, one the audience has never seen, but which hints at brutal hand-to-hand combat, a surgical bay splattered with blood, and a mysterious Klingon symbol burned into the wall. When Captain Pike asks him about it later in the briefing room, M'Benga brushes it off as just a memory out of order. But the past doesn't stay buried. The Enterprise is diverted to investigate a derelict Federation transport adrift near the edge of Klingon space. On board is a single survivor, a disheveled intelligence officer named Commander Alira Thane, who claims to have been tracking a rogue Klingon operative known as Koshvarek, same name that appears in M'Benga's nightmare. Pike doesn't miss the reaction on M'Benga's face. Neither does Nurse Chapel. It's immediately clear that M'Benga knows far more than he's willing to admit, setting up a tense mystery that slowly unravels through flashbacks, confrontations, and the growing realization that the Doctor's past is entwined with darker deeds than the crew ever suspected. The return of the Ghost Doctor. Throughout Strange New Worlds, M'Benga's history in the Klingon War has been hinted at, but Season 3, Episode 7 finally reveals the full truth behind his infamous battlefield nickname, the Ghost Doctor. In a flashback triggered by Commander Thane's arrival, we see M'Benga as he once was, exhausted, surrounded by makeshift medical tents, and forced to perform grisly triage on soldiers who cannot be saved. But the Ghost moniker came not from his medical prowess, but from something much darker, rumors that he personally hunted enemy operatives responsible for war crimes, eliminating them with surgical precision. The episode confirms that those rumors weren't entirely false. M'Benga didn't just treat the wounded, he interrogated certain Klingon officers believed to have tortured Federation captives. And while the flashbacks stop short of showing exactly what happened, they leave little doubt that his hands are stained with more than blood from the surgical bay. It's a revelation that reframes everything we know about him. The calm, steady doctor aboard the Enterprise is a man who has spent years trying to heal others as a way of atoninging for the violence he once embraced. This deeper context transforms M'Benga from a wise and gentle healer into one of the franchise's most morally complex characters since Deep Space Nine's Odo or Discovery's Gabriel Lorca. Koshvarek, villain, victim, or mirror? When the Enterprise picks up a distress signal from a Klingon vessel, the tension spikes. The ship belongs to Koshvarek, the very operative Thane claims to be hunting. Pike, ever the diplomat, attempts a cautious first contact. But Koshvarek demands not to speak with Pike, or even with Starfleet Command. He asks for M'Benga by name. The moment is chilling. The bridge goes silent, and M'Benga, who has maintained his composure until now, nearly freezes. The encounter forces Pike to confront a hard truth. His trusted doctor has a past he never disclosed, one that could endanger the crew. But instead of lecturing him, Pike does what makes him one of the greatest captains in Star Trek. He listens. M'Benga finally confesses that he once interrogated Koshvarek during the war, following a massacre at a Federation outpost. The Klingon survived, but the encounter left deep scars on both men, literal and psychological. The episode brilliantly avoids a simple hero-villain dynamic. Koshvarek is not a cartoonish antagonist. He, too, is shaped by war, trauma, and layers of guilt. In their eventual face-to-face confrontation aboard the Enterprise, the two men seem less like enemies and more like reflections of each other, trapped by the choices they made when survival overshadowed morality. Their conversation is one of the most powerful scenes of the season, a quiet but devastating exploration of how violence lingers long after the battle ends. Nurse Chapel becomes Mbenga's moral anchor. Throughout the episode, Nurse Chapel plays a significant role, not just as a witness, but as a grounding force for Mbenga. Her concern isn't rooted in fear, but in empathy. She's always sensed there was a darkness beneath his calm exterior, but she never fully understood its magnitude until now. Chapel confronts him privately, urging him to talk before his secret consumes him. "You don't have to carry this alone," she says, a line that resonates with her own history of emotional struggles. Her support is more than friendship. It's a reminder that healing is a two-way path. For much of the series, Mbenga has been a caretaker for others. Here, Chapel becomes his caretaker, someone strong enough to look into the shadows he hides and still offer compassion. This dynamic enriches both characters, and the episode allows their relationship to deepen in subtle, meaningful ways. Pike faces a Starfleet dilemma. Captain Pike has had his share of moral dilemmas across Strange New Worlds, but Episode 7 confronts him with one of the toughest yet. If Mbenga's actions during the war violated Starfleet regulations, does he have a duty to report him? Would doing so destroy a man who has otherwise saved countless lives? And what does justice look like years after the conflict, when both sides are trying to rebuild peace? These questions echo themes from Deep Space Nine, particularly episodes dealing with the Bajoran occupation and the lingering consequences of wartime atrocities. But Strange New Worlds adds its own twist by grounding the dilemma in personal loyalty. Pike deeply trusts Mbenga, and that trust is shaken but not broken. The episode avoids easy answers. Pike ultimately chooses a path that prioritizes healing over punishment, but not without consequence. He insists that Mbenga begin counseling and submit a classified report to Starfleet Command, emphasizing transparency while also shielding him from political fallout. It's a nuanced decision, one that reflects the complexity of leadership rather than the simplicity of procedural justice. The final secret, Mbenga's war journal. The emotional crescendo of the episode comes in the final act, when Mbenga retrieves a hidden data module from his personal quarters, a war journal he's kept locked away for years. Chapel discovers him reading it, trembling. Inside the journal are records of every patient he couldn't save and every enemy operative he interrogated. The entries are sparse but haunting, filled with guilt, questions, and unresolved grief. In a moment of catharsis, Mbenga decides to delete the journal, but Chapel stops him. "You can't erase the past," she says softly, "only learn from it." Together, they transfer the files to a secure medical archive, ensuring the truth isn't lost, even if it remains classified. It's a beautiful metaphor for the episode's theme. Redemption doesn't come from forgetting, but from confronting what you've tried to bury. A character forever changed. By the end of Season 3, Episode 7, Dr. Mbenga is irrevocably changed, and so is our perception of him. He remains a healer, a brilliant physician, and a loyal officer, but now he is also undeniably human, flawed, wounded, sometimes capable of darkness.